This is Dr. Alexander Haskell. About 3 years ago, I began seeing health problems with people taking high doses of iodine and iodide. And these people were both my patients and others who had developed complications from taking these high doses. My goal is to share some of these cases and to review some medical research on iodine and iodide. I also want to bring greater clarity about using these trace minerals safely and effectively. I've been in practice for 28 years and I've used high doses, but because I witnessed severe side effects, I now recommend 3 milligrams, not 12.5 milligrams for most people. So let's review the history of how the 12.5 milligram dose became so popular. In 1976, The Lancet, a famous world-renowned medical journal, asked the following question: why was the rate of breast cancer in Japanese women so much lower than anywhere else in the world? Their hypothesis was the Japanese diet, rich in iodine and iodide. The study speculated that the Japanese consumed enough kelp and seafood to be equivalent to about 12.5 milligrams of iodine and iodide. So now we find this 12.5 milligram tablet based upon the hypothesis of this article. And I believe that translating this article into a very broad recommendation that everyone needs 12.5 milligrams is flawed for at least 2 reasons. The first is that the concentration of iodine and iodide varies widely among various types of kelp. In 2011, the Journal of Thyroid Research made the following statement: by combining information from dietary records, food surveys, urine iodine analysis, and seaweed iodine content, we estimate that the Japanese iodine intake averages between 1 and 3 milligrams a day. Researchers frequently overestimate Japanese iodine intake from seaweeds, which results in misleading and potentially dangerous diet and supplementation recommendations for people aiming to achieve the same health benefits seen by the Japanese. Therefore, it's very likely that the intake of iodine and iodide by Japanese women was much less than was stated in the 40-year-old Lancet article. And I believe that 12.5 milligrams, this recommendation for our general population, is risky and in some cases dangerous. The second flaw in recommending high doses of iodine and iodide relates to the thyroid gland. Please remember, throughout this presentation, thyroid cells absorb iodide and not iodine. The medical textbook, Principles of Physiology, states the total iodide content of the human thyroid gland averages 7.5 milligrams. So in each 12.5 milligram tablet, there's about 6 milligrams of iodide. So what side effects can develop since the thyroid doesn't require this much? There are 3: hyperthyroidism, thyroid nodules, and Hashimoto's, a thyroid autoimmune condition. These are real conditions that can develop using the higher 12.5 milligram dose. In some cases, I do recommend the higher doses, but I suggest being followed by a health professional who knows what side effects to look for and what labs to run. So I normally recommend the 3 milligram dose based upon research and my clinical experience. I want to briefly cover some of the benefits of iodine and iodide. 2011, Cancer Causes and Control. Iodine supplementation significantly reduced the prevalence of breast cysts, fibrous tissue plaques, and breast pain. High iodine status may be a key protective factor against the development of breast cancer. In endocrinology and metabolism, environmental toxins called endocrine-disrupting chemicals interfere with the absorption of iodine and iodide. Women with low iodine and iodide were at greater risk for breast disease and thyroid issues. Every day we are exposed to these endocrine disrupting chemicals in our food, in cosmetics, and water. From advances in experimental medicine and biology, iodine deficient breast tissue is more susceptible to carcinogen action and promotes lesions earlier and in greater profusion. From molecular cancer research, iodine has an anti-proliferative and apoptotic, meaning cell death, effect on mammary cancer. I could review many other journals on the benefits of iodine for ovarian and prostate issues and the immune system, but I want to cover some side effects. To understand some potential dangers, I must first explain how your thyroid gland works. Here's an illustration of a thyroid cell and its ability to produce thyroid hormones. But specific nutrients are required by the thyroid cell: iodide, selenium, zinc, and iron. The thyroid cell also requires stimulation from the hormone TSH in order to make thyroid hormones. If thyroid hormones are low, the pituitary produces more TSH, stimulating the thyroid cells to increase their production of thyroid hormones. If thyroid hormones become elevated, TSH production will go down. There's a balance, the body's trying to balance the levels of both thyroid hormones and production of TSH. If a person has plenty of TSH and they are suffering from low thyroid hormones, then most of the time all they need is some iodide. But taking too much iodide can lead to problems. To understand why this is, we must understand the effect of TSH on thyroid cells. Here's that illustration again. On thyroid cells are these what are called iodide symports, or channels, through which iodide is absorbed into the thyroid cell. TSH stimulates these symports to increase the absorption of iodide. But thyroid cells cannot use iodide for thyroid hormone production. It must be converted to iodine. So how does a thyroid cell change iodide into iodine? Thyroid cells manufacture or make hydrogen peroxide, which is what converts the iodide into iodine. And what stimulates thyroid cells to increase their production of hydrogen peroxide is TSH. It's pretty simple, but problems develop with too much iodide, and here's why. When iodine and iodide enter the body wants to absorb and store as much of these two trace minerals as possible. This likely goes way back to when we humans were migrating hunter-gatherers, when these two precious minerals were not always available. So our body, in order to absorb and retain these precious minerals, increases its production of TSH. Why? Well, we know about the absorption of iodide into thyroid cells, which is stimulated by TSH. But also these same channels or symports are also found on breast cells, on ovary cells, and prostate cells, and likely many other tissues and cells in the body. These channels are called sodium iodine symports. So when iodine and iodide increase in the body starts secreting more TSH. This helps to absorb iodide into thyroid cells and iodine into breast, ovary, and prostate cells. And this is good, but up to a point. Remember that TSH stimulates thyroid cells to produce hydrogen peroxide. If we continue to take high doses of iodide and iodine, TSH will continue to stimulate thyroid cells to produce hydrogen peroxide, and the thyroid cell will become irritated and eventually inflamed. This inflammation leads to thyroid swelling, the premature aging of thyroid cells, and the potential development of thyroid nodules and hyperthyroid symptoms. This swelling is not good and predisposes a person to the autoimmune condition known as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. The itis means inflammation. So here are two lab reports or lab results for a woman. Notice her first test, their TSH was 3.563. It's within the reference range you see to the right. We started her on 12.5 milligrams of iodine and iodide. 3 months later, look at her TSH, 107.49, very elevated. And by the way, this woman did not have Hashimoto's. but she is certainly predisposed with high levels of TSH like this. Here's another case. A 32-year-old man experimented with high doses of iodine and iodide. After 2 months of taking 50 milligrams, his resting heart rate had climbed to over 100 beats per minute. He was losing weight, even though he had a ravenous appetite. He was perfectly fine before starting this dose. Initially, his TSH rose and led to this: 2 thyroid nodules. These nodules began secreting excess thyroid hormones, leading to all the symptoms of hyperthyroidism. 2 endocrinologists were consulted. One suggested thyroidectomy, the removal of his thyroid, the other radiation to kill his thyroid. It took us 2 months of treatment to get him back to normal. He used intravenous vitamin C, had his amalgams removed, and he went through a heavy metal detox. And he was fine. He has been fine since then. My advice then is to use safe and effective amounts of iodine and iodide and to thus avoid complications. So why not just recommend kelp? I contacted Gaia Herbs in North Carolina and asked them to make 3 milligram capsules of a kelp concentrate. They wouldn't do it because of unacceptable levels of arsenic. Kelp purifies our oceans from toxins and environmental toxic waste. You can see by this list the various heavy metals that are found in kelp. So because of our continual exposure to environmental toxins, I truly believe that iodine and iodide should be used every day of our lives to protect us. But there's another very important trace mineral, selenium. Besides iodide and iodine, kelp and seafood are rich in selenium. Selenium is also one of the most common deficiencies in our population. It is required by our thyroid cells to make thyroid hormones. It protects our thyroid cells from excess iodide. It is necessary for our bodies to produce glutathione. So selenium is a very important nutrient to be taken along with iodine and iodide. So based upon all the research, we decided to manufacture a safe and very affordable iodine, iodide, and selenium supplement, which can be taken on a regular daily basis without any risk of side effects. Our Iodoral Plus contains 1.5 milligrams of iodine, 1.5 milligrams of iodide, and 200 micrograms of selenium methionine per veggie capsule. This is our product. If you'd like more information or to order our product, go to www.safeusesofiodine.com/iodoplus. The container has 90 capsules, so taking 1 per day lasts you 3 months or 90 days. The cost is $24 plus shipping. Thank you.